Changes are an inevitable thing for any CSGO team. Even record holders Virtus Pro or legendary Astralis couldn't avoid them. But while most changes seem to be quite logical, others look quite strange and, frankly, stupid. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, because you're watching CYBERSHOKE, and today we'll tell you about the worst kick in Navi's history that nearly destroyed the team. You liked our video on how Fnatic broke CSGO right there on the major, and you asked us to tell you more stories about our favorite game. Well, you ask, we deliver. So most of you probably remember that for a long time, Navi were named a second-place team. They were a stable top 3 team that could crush any opponent, and sometimes they indeed won big lands. But in general, they had a big albatross hanging on their neck. In important grand finals, Navi started to play poorly and make highly regrettable mistakes that led them to yet another second place. For them, it was especially hard on the majors, the most important tournaments in CSGO. At the end of 2015, Navi made it to the grand finals in Cluj-Napoca, but failed to defeat Envious. And fans thought, okay, Envy were stronger, but on the next major in Columbus, Navi will definitely win. But then the same story happened again. They easily got to the grand finals, got a favorite status on CSGO Lounge, and ended up losing to Brazil Luminosity Gaming. Even on DreamHack, which was held right after MLG Columbus, they took exactly second place. The situation was dichotomous. On the one hand, Navi were one of the strongest teams in the world, and on the other, they failed at one grand final after another. And while Danylo Zeus was sure that their agreement to become champions in this exact roster was still on, his team seemed to think otherwise. After making it to the playoffs of an E-League tournament, Zeus got a text from his friend, asking him if he's really getting kicked from Navi. This was a big shock for Danylo. He just couldn't understand how the organization where he had played for so long would be discussing kicking him off behind his back. But he also knew that if people were talking, then it was 100% that something was happening. It's worth mentioning that we're deciding not to dive deep into all the dirty details about Zeus's kick, because they are only really covered in detail in Zeus's own book, which would only be his side of the story. And I'm sure that you can understand that we can't just ask Seized, hey bro, is it true that you were the one who initiated Zeus's kick? We just don't have the full picture of what happened. And since one-sided journalism isn't really our thing, we'll just skip all the rumors about how exactly Zeus got kicked. But what we do know for sure is that Danylo found out about his kick hours before the semifinals of E-League, a big LAN with $1.5 million in prize money that was featured on cable TV in the USA. After crying for a bit in his hotel room, Zeus went on stage and tried to play at his best, but it's obvious that the team had almost no chance of winning in such a state. So, after a very expected loss against Fnatic, Zeus packed up his things and went home. And Navi went on to sign the best player in Counter-Strike history, Sasha Simple. So how could we possibly justify calling Zeus's removal the worst kick in Navi of all time? Well, let us explain. We'll start with the reasons behind his kick. Honestly, they're pretty obvious. There was just one thing that Navi didn't like about Zeus, and that was his stats. Zeus never shined in terms of KD, but with every passing year, his rating had become worse and worse. Just look at it. In 2013, he still managed to get 1.0, but in 2016, he only had 0.92. For a long time, Navi was okay with that. Zeus made some frags, and those were different times back then. It was okay for a captain to be a low-tab player, but as we said, with every year, Zeus played worse and worse, while the other Tier 1 IGLs started to get a stable 1.0 KD. Zeus launched more and more business projects, and had fewer and fewer hours in CSGO every 2 weeks. And then, Navi came up with a plan. You know, back then, competitive CS was different because of one small but important detail. Now, a coach can only speak with the team in pause time, but in 2016, he was literally the 6th player who was sitting in the spectator slot, coordinating his team mid-round. At that time, Navi's coach was a very experienced player, Starix. It turned out that earlier, he oftentimes took on the leadership role and coordinated the team himself, and Navi's results didn't suffer as a result. And so, Navi thought, well, why keep Zeus around when we could just kick him, invite Simple, and make Starix our IGL? Then we won't lose anything strats-wise while gaining a lot of firepower. They thought it was a win-win, so that's what they did. Navi didn't even think about picking any players except Simple, and a few days after Zeus's kick, Sasha signed his contract. Everything looked like it was going to turn out perfect for NAVI, but after a couple of weeks, Valve came out and completely destroyed their plan by adding a new rule to CSGO. With unrestricted communication with their players, coaches can currently function as a sixth player, and not solely as a source of guidance or training. Activities such as keeping track of the economy, calling plays, and general situational awareness are important components of CS gameplay. If a person is performing these actions, we consider them a player. Since the goal of our events is to identify the best 5-player CS teams that exhibit the best combination of all CS skills, the current participation of coaches in the game is not compatible with that goal. To address this problem, future Valve-sponsored events will enforce the following coaching rules. During a match, the coach may only communicate with the players during warm-up, halftime, or during one of 4 30-second timeouts that the coach or player can call. What do you think? How many players in NAVI had any IGL experience back then? Well, it was a big ol' 0. So after a win in New York, the team faced the biggest downfall in its history. Now the title of second-place team seemed like a rosy dream, and they were striving to get back to where they were before. They dropped below 10th place in HLTV 3 times, didn't make it to the grand finals in a single big LAN, and oftentimes got eliminated in the group stages. It was obvious that their problem was just the lack of an experienced IGL. C's was the one who took this role, and just check this out. He finished the first half of 2016 with a 1.12 KD, and in the second, he had a 0.8 KD. You couldn't possibly explain a downfall that fast by just personal issues or a lack of motivation. No way any player could just start playing so badly that quickly. As a result, Denise was kicked, and from now on, he will never return to the Tier 1 scene. Many people believe that Navi's decision to make C's their IGL ended up being the main reason that his top-tier career came to an end. Zeus was also struggling a lot at that time. He went to the Dominican Republic with his family to get some rest, and everything was going great. The resort was perfect. He drank a lot of good whiskey and had a great time. But Danylo still couldn't accept the fact that he just got kicked out of NAVI, and that was the moment when he decided that he was going to win a major no matter what it took. So after returning from the Dominican Republic, Zeus flew to Moscow to check out the LAN tournament by Acer. There, he talked to Gambit managers and received an invite to take Hooch's place and become their captain. Of course, he agreed. After a year, Gambit became the most unexpected major champions in CSGO history, and Danylo once again found himself in the situation where he had to leave. Soon after that win, it turned out that all the other Gambit players were, to put it mildly, unsatisfied with their coach Kane, an old friend of Zeus, and they wanted to kick him so badly that they even refused to move him to an analyst role. Danylo was shocked, while all the media called their win the celebration of Zeus, who proved NAVI wrong. He repeated one thing again and again: "Our win is a result of the hard work of all members of the team, including Kane." At that time, NAVI was the 16th best team in the world and tried their best to find an IGL. They wanted to sign Angel, who accepted their invitation, but Krill's organization Hellraisers named a huge price for his contract, knowing how desperate NAVI was in signing him. Nodus Vincier didn't even think about asking Zeus. Come on, the guy just won a major. How the hell would he consider joining top 16 NAVI right after they just kicked him out so disrespectfully? But Danylo didn't have any success in finding a compromise regarding his teammate Kane, so he left the team with his friend. And so it was that the stars aligned in perfect formation. Zeus came back to NAVI, bringing with him a coach that had just won the major, and he brought the team back to its former glory. Under Zeus's wing, NAVI managed to become the second best team in the world in 1 year, and even earned a new nickname. If earlier they were called a second place team, then now people called them number 1 after Astralis. But you know, being the best team after Astralis is actually a very good achievement. Obviously, many things could have gone differently in that situation. What would have happened had Valve not restricted coaches from talking with the team, or if Seized actually proved himself to be a great captain? But as the old saying goes, hindsight is 20/20. But it's clear that the year after Zeus's kick was the worst year in all of Navi's history. Hey guys, if you want us to tell more stories about CSGO, just let us know in the comments. And of course, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, because you are watching CYBERSHOKE. Bye for now.